Welcome everybody on all the other channels. Uh, Thank you for being here. And as I said, I'm going to continue the same topic that I had yesterday. It's not a topic, it's something pointing out to uh, which is very meaningful and matters in everybody's life, I think. Generally, if somebody asks us, like, who are you or what is you? We always say, I'm this body, I'm going around with a set of character, with a personality, ego, and I kind of have some opinions or some conclusions, something like that, right? Now, the other way to look at this is that all we are, or is there something more fundamental in us that's kind of animates this body and mind? When we put like that, we'll say, "Oh yeah, we're more than the body and the mind," right? Uh, it's just having a glimpse at it, and then it is being the fundamental and living like that reality or identity beyond the body and mind is something else, right? Many traditions, many spirituality practices, they lead to that, and then uh, people go there when they have some received some problems in their life or some trauma or some spiritual growth, they think, and then they may want to find it with some external activity, and that doesn't work out. They may try some relationship that doesn't work out, and they may join a political party that may not work out, and then they may go to some philosophical organizations and also some kind of uh, attitude, right? Like, I'm going to be on my way to find myself. So go to some mountains or some forests or some, all these things people do in quest of this inner reality that's way above their body and the mind, and actually animating their body and mind. So it's part of you, but you are not aware of it because you have these ideas, conclusions, or intellectual concepts that I'm this and this and this, so, right? But when you are truly facing it without any layers of illusion, you really come to the spot where it is your inner energetic self that is already there, and that really coming through you in so many ways, but you are not aware of it. Okay, so whatever you do with your senses, like you see, you smell, you sense, or you hear, you taste, and you touch, all those things are perceptions or inputs your senses are taking to your brain, and then you are kind of creating your own world. But who is that seer behind the seeing? Who is the hearer who hears behind that ears? uh, that kind of energy is that you, and that is actually your reality. And once you understand that and staying in the reality and observing everything else going uh, around you is really very liberating for a lot of people. So they may realize at the end of life, they may realize in a sudden spontaneous awakening, and all those things happen. But the question is, once you understand, once you are there, can you live in that, abiding in that? They call that self, big S. There is a small s where our ego and all those things are there, but then that ego is also a servant of a shadow of our real bigger self, right? So once you understand your own true reality and staying in that is what is called abiding in the bigger self, right? And that's very important because you are not limited by your own limited understanding through reading or culture or schooling or any conditioning that people go through. Uh, that is really, um, sometimes this is not right. It's just coming to me because of my conditioning by the culture of my family, by my society, by my party, whatever, right? This is not it. I have more authentic myself, and that authentic self I'm talking about. Can you be abiding as that authentic self all the time? And that is the goal of many spiritual practices, not religious, but spiritual practices. People want to find themselves, right? But once they find themselves, can they stay in that? Can they live through that? Can they really go through life without suffering? Because body suffers, mind suffers, but not your real self. Then you can really understand the suffering and transcend it. And also, you can unleash this joy that is already there within you. Okay, they may sound really fantastic or whatever, but that's what is involved in this. It's not that everybody will release the joy from within. They have to go after something, they have to get something, they have to make money. A lot of people look like that. That's because they are not aware of what is inside of them, what they are really. Okay, so but this is very uh, invigorating, and stops all your addictions, stops all your grasping nature, or any number of things like that. Okay, so very important in this modern age to really have a hold on your body and on your mind going all over, right? Because there are so many people are willing to manipulate you and take you wherever they want to take you, but not where you really want to go, because that is truth, and that is good for everybody, and that is helpful for everybody, and all those characteristics, right? So if you want to be in the society, you want to work with the societal norms, but at the same time understand the limitations of society and go after the truth in that, right? So this is a topic I was intending to talk about. Anybody wants to come up, they are more than welcome. You can come and engage in exploration, not an argument, but exploration of these kind of things, what we are talking about, where we are going with it, and what kind of uh, effort is involved, and what are the result of this kind of understanding and exploration. All that is involved in that. Okay, so how this started with me is uh, when people talk about the ultimate reality. You can call it God, you can call it consciousness, you can call it love, you can call it your own self, and all these different names are there. But basically, what it is we have a body, and we have so many parts all together, and we have this awareness that we are human beings. We can think ahead, we can recall what we have lived through, the memory, but we can also shape our future by really understanding what is reality, where to go, and all. So ancient systems really explored this inner realm much more than the modern people. Modern people really walked away from the inner realm to the benefit of getting more out of the external things, external accumulations, external sensory experiences, pleasure, and all that, right? So they're pursuing as though happiness is outside of us, and they're pursuing so many things. But the moment they get it, they feel like, oh, what is there in it? I already have it. I don't feel like enjoying this. For example, a new car. When you first buying a new car, and you never had any car before, then that feeling of wanting to buy the new car really drives you, and you have more pleasure in that. And then when you get the new car, you do enjoy, but briefly, right? You don't enjoy for a long time. It's gone like that. Somerset mom said something about that. if you pursue pleasure in a single minded focus, it will no longer be pleasing anymore. So it has its own limitations. Okay, that's the nature of the pleasure. But many of the institutions, many of the people, they spend a lot of time in pursuing pleasure, thinking that is happiness, right? uh, so once you have gone through all that, all the pleasures of the world, like a Buddha, right? What he did, he was born into as a prince, and his father didn't want him to be a sage, because that is what the horoscope said at the time of his birth, that either he become an emperor or he will become a great sage. So his father kind of looked down on being a sage, and he didn't want his son to be that. He wanted him to be the next ruler of that kingdom, right? So he was focusing on, at any cost, keep him away from those activities that will provoke him to be a sage. And you want to train him in warfare. You want to train him in how to rule the kingdom and make him a kingdom. That the king, that was his wish, right? But then uh, Buddha was taken away from the troubles or problems of the world, and all the people who had the problems were taken away from the city, and then they were put at the edge of the city in a different cantonment or town, right? So they are not, he's not easily exposed to the troubles of the world life. Okay, but then by destiny, whatever it happens, that he had to see an old man, he had to see a person who is with a lot of illness, and then he had to see somebody dying, and that body is being carried away to burial ground, right? So after he sees them, then because he was so much into the pressure, they don't give the answer for these things. Then he wanted to find out the truth behind this suffering. He used that as suffering, and he wanted to find out. And then he engulfs on this path of self-knowing, self-realization, and then he goes and works for 13 years, and then he gets the idea of who he is, what is suffering, why there is suffering because of the desire, how can you overcome the suffering, and all that he finds out. And then he finds out by himself, not by instruction. He goes into his whole self and then finds that all out, and then he comes up with a solution, that how you can be resolving this suffering or understanding suffering, go through suffering and all that. So then he establishes himself in his real self, real identity is his real reality itself, right? And that is when he's not swayed by his mind, or he's not swayed by the events of the life, like old age, disease, death, and all that. Okay, so he's kind of seen through the whole thing. That's why he's liberated from that suffering by understanding what it is and waking up to the reality. You remember, wake up. They say you have to do so much spiritual work to wake up from your ignorance to your reality by light representing the knowledge. So you go and find out yourself by developing the knowledge, and then using that to dispel the darkness that you have. Your darkness is nothing but thinking of, I'm just this mortal body and mind, right? So how you are not going to identify that you are the body and mind, to how you land up realizing that you are that inner life force, or Atman, or self, or consciousness, whatever the name you give, but it is the inert body, inert mind, animated by conscious being. That's when you wake up, and then you have awareness, and then through the senses and the mind, you see the world and you react to it, and your life goes on, right? So Buddha said life will throw the arrows at you. That's the first arrow that will come and hit us, and they cause the damage, whatever. But then you cannot do anything about it. Life is like that. It will produce the first arrow. But how you react is your second arrow. Like you are putting a second arrow into yourself by reacting without knowledge, without understanding, thinking that only this life, sensory life, is everything, and all that. So then the situation comes where I say, okay, I'm not just my body, which is made up of bones and all that, but I'm not just mine. They are very vital for me. I have to take care of them. They are my instruments through which I will go through the life. So I will do that. That's okay. You can be well, you can be proactive well, you can be really peaceful in your mind, and then also liberate the mind from the thinking matrix. Don't be just intellectual, but see the light. Get out of that. Kind of some of the intellectuals become stuck with what they think is the only way the reality is. That's unfortunate. That's why if you are a bookworm, if you're reading somebody else's experience all the time, and you'll never realize who you are, right? So there's a whole process to go to that stage where you really know who you are that self, and then how can you be in that all the time? That is what is the abiding the self. Okay, very simple to describe. It can make sense, but the moment you go to sleep and get up, all your thoughts, all your things, they will come up. So how are you going to be there all the time? Is the spiritual work, is the spiritual practice that they describe about. Okay, so this discussion of on this topic started with me seeing a documentary by uh, it was done probably very maybe early 60s or early 50s when Ramdas, a really young man, and he was the Ramdas was the anchor, and he was the one who was describing the whole place. But then he just has so many anecdotes by people who followed Ramana Maharshi and their encounter with him and what Ramana Maharshi said about this self, right? The uh, the whole film starts with whatever you do, finally you have to really realize yourself. What is yourself. So that is permanent, but all this other life is temporary. So why do you want to be in the temporary, but you have to be in the permanent? That's how he claims. He was somebody who was always in that self. Either he was awake or he was sleeping and all that. Okay, so that's why he was extraordinary, and he had a lot of wisdom that he shared to people. But he always said, "Abide as the self," and he said, "Your mind is like your mistress, whereas your real self is your wife." So you don't want to be the mistress because she can leave you and go anywhere anytime. But then the mind is the one which produces a lot of suffering for you because you are wrongly identifying yourself as the mind or mind produced ego or thought produced uh, personality. No, you are not. So with the body gone, mind is also gone, and your so-called shadow self, which is the ego, is also gone. But you are beneath that real wisdom, real self. Okay, and once you realize that, be in that, abide in that. That is the thing about that. So I would recommend all of you, if you are interested, go and see that. Ramana Maharshi is somebody, he never asked anybody to be his disciple, and he's gone. He died in uh, when was that? At the age of his 70 or so, he died. 1950 maybe, yeah, 1950 he died. But he stayed in only one place for about 50 years. He was born an ordinary young man, but very athletic and all that. He was a normal kid up until age 16 when he had this awakening to the reality of who he is. And then he comes to this Tiruvannamalai, which is a place where they have this big mountain, very known for spiritual people coming there. And he never leaves that place for 50 years. He didn't go to another town to speak or none of it, all these things. So he stayed only in that place, and he lived his life very simply. He never asked anybody to come to him for any questions or any teaching. They themselves came and asked him, then he spoke and answered them. He was very willing to help them, but he never said they are his disciples, or he doesn't accept it, doesn't deny it. Whoever comes, whoever asks the questions, he would, if they come and give him a bunch of money, he would not take it. He say, whatever I do, I would. If you give a fruit, he will take it and eat it, but he will not take the money. So very quite remarkable, because he's not like seeking people, but he did open many people's minds by answering questions to them. One particular question which is relevant to us is a youth comes from down south. Like I come from a state called Andhra Pradesh, and this kid also comes from that. And then Ramana Maharshi was in Tamil Nadu. That's like a north of my state, right? So it's very difficult to go there because he's in the hills, and then there's not much transportation at the time. I think it's 1940s probably, and he had questions about this. How do I identify myself? How do I go there and all that? So he comes and asks this question: who am I, sir? How do I reach my real entity, and how do I stay there and all that? Then Ramana, she looks at him and says, go back how you came from, where you came from. So he thinks, he asked him to go back to his place, and that's why he was very disappointed. He says that, and then goes away. So this kid, hearing that, he really gets upset, because I traveled so many miles, so I've spent so much money, I had so much difficulty coming here, and after I come here, he does say this, and he gets very disappointed. Then the people around Raman Maharshi tells him, "Hey, don't be hasty about it. This is the same thing he told a lot of other people too." But then a couple of times he stopped and explained to us what he meant. What he meant was, you see, when you are born, your spiritual heart, you have the beginner's mind. And out of that, these thoughts come, and the thoughts make up your mind. Different things all the time, right? And you are now forgotten about your real heart, which you came from, and then you are settled down in the identification of the mind, right? That's what we all do. We identify with our thoughts. We identify our the image generated by thought, our name, our role, our status in the society. All those things are made up by our own mind, right? They may be facts, but that image that is generated is not really you. That is your role. That is your image. Those kind of things, right? So you have come from the spiritual heart to the intellectual mind or emotional mind and all. And now you got to return and go back and establish this mind in your spiritual heart. That's what he meant by that. And many people don't even understand. They don't have a foggiest idea what to do. Basically, see how you think. See, this is something I talk to again and again. I don't mind repeating it. When you get up in the morning, don't allow your thinking take over you. Give some time. Don't open any of your devices. Give some time, and then establish yourself to whatever practice that you do. I do breathing, I do awareness, I do so much of looking out things and all that. By the way, by the time I'm done, within 5 minutes, I establish in my real self, in my presence. So I will be not allowing the mind to run whichever way it wants. So I am in that silence and in that depth of myself, and stay there. That is the present. Okay, so I live in the present moment that way. Then what happens is you carry the presence, and then when somebody else comes also, you'll be in the present, right? So that is the exercise that we do. And then we don't allow the thought to go berserk, go wherever it wants. But then when something practical has to be done, like I have to go from here to the 10 houses down the line, I have to get up and I have to go to the front of my house, exit my house, and walk on the road and go to that house, right? So that's what I use the thought for. Otherwise, thought will go all over and it may take you different places too, right? So we don't want to do that. So what we want to do is establish ourselves in the present moment of awareness and stay there. That is this abiding the self too. And then put the thought in the back of your wakefulness and then consciously use it. And then when you have done, finish it off. That's what is happening with the modern era intellectuals. Is they allow the mind to go think whatever it comes. That's okay for creativity, for doing some things at the time. But after that, they don't learn how to put a stop to that and then come back and settle down in your awareness. Okay, so that is what it is. Bring the awareness to the front and use the thought consciously and finish off the thought when you are done with the whatever you are using the thought for. That's a very healthy thing. Then you can abide in your real self, not in your thought construct self, but in your real self. And that way you have peace, you have awareness, you have happiness, right? All those things are happen when you are not caught up in your network of thought. Okay, if you are really staying in your real self, then you use the thought and dump it. You want to remember something, remember, but the rest of it is gossip. This global gossip that social media has been going on, evolving itself into, throws a lot of stuff that may not be meaningful to you at all. Suppose your family, your talents, your business, your relationships, all these things are valuable to you, then focus on them and let other things that are not relevant to it or that may not be helpful to you in any way, don't accumulate them by being unconscious about what you are thinking, what's coming into your mind, what's going out of your mind. Okay, if you are aware, if you really know what is going on within you, then you will be in the awareness and you will be avoiding the self. And then out of that, you pull the mind and say, I'm going to use you for this and use it. It's kind of, I could have put it crudely, but that is the essence of it. Okay, so you got to first come and look at yourself. Get up in the morning, you got to go from the lower self to higher self on a daily basis. Okay, but you can start just by getting up, being in aware, don't opening the devices, and then making yourself come to the present, and then in present you do all your things during the day, and at the end of it, reflect on all that has happened and dump all the reactions that you had, forgive them and give it up, let them go. And that is very healthy. That's why I'm telling you, if you want to be healthy and well and really spend a very fulfilling human life where you know what you want and you will attain that fulfillment by really focusing on that, by being concentrated on that. Okay, that's what I was saying. Somebody is here, my friends. Let me see. Hunter, hi.
Hi,
How are you?
good.
Okay. So, what do you think? Am I making any sense?
Pardon?
You have any question or comment
About what?
about what we are talking about?
What are you talking about?
Yeah, you are talking to Dr. Rao.
No.
I'm talking about
What
abiding.
are you
Yeah,
what are you talking about?
we are talking about finding our real spiritual self and staying in it.
My
Being
phone.
what? Okay, maybe she came by mistake. That's okay. If they have question, if there's something I would like to answer that, Otherwise, I will go on what we're talking about. So this is uh, a practice that doesn't involve any particular religion, but more like how do we manage our mind? How do I really understand the difference between thoughtful and being aware? And how can we be in the awareness all the time? And then use the thinking as our tool rather than our master, right? That kind of discrimination is very difficult for a lot of people because they don't even know how to really get rid of that network of thought that they built it by themselves. And that for that, a lot of people need a lot of meditation. So the thing is, if you are in lot of thoughts all the time thinking, then you need meditation practices to gather the thoughts together, to go one pointer and all that. But if you are in your real self, which is not thought but awareness, you don't need to do any meditation because you are in that silence, you are in that awareness. So you can be very quiet, joyful, and also really focus on whatever you want to do. Okay, so that's why abiding self in that he says you call this meditation now because you have created all this thinking and then you want to control the thinking, you want to do meditation, but you don't realize your real self is does not need all this meditation, all this, because it is thought free. It is awareness, it is kind of silence that you can be. So if you identify who you are and stay in that, there is no thought there, but there is only awareness, and you don't need to but otherwise you may have a lot of thoughts going on, you may not be able to control your thought, and you have scatteredness, you cannot really focus on one thought. Then you need meditation. When you sit down, the meditation is simple thing: sit down in chair or on the floor, what is convenient for you. Then keep your spine straight, and then close your eyes and breathe first, and then follow the breath coming in, going out, and then see whether anything coming up, popping up in your mind. If they do, don't fight that thought, don't indulge in the thought, and you just watch the thought. You become the watcher rather than indulger in the thought. And then slowly the thoughts will slow down and they will come down to few, and then you try to come to one thought and stay it. That one pointedness that you achieve is important, and then you go beyond the thought and see where are these thoughts coming from. Then you will discover your real self from where these things are springing up. So you want to resolve them, or you want to really bury them or discard them or let them go. Then your mind becomes clearer, purer, and really stays in that particular one pointedness. Okay, that is the aim of that. And then once you go beyond it, then you have the awareness, and the awareness really you don't have any problem of scatteredness and all that. So you don't have to meditate. Okay, that's why understanding the awareness and moment to moment, if you are in the awareness, then you don't need any meditation on top of it. But you may not get to that state unless you deal with your existing thoughts, all over going thoughts, lack of focus, all those things you deal with it by your regular practice of meditation in the morning and in the evening. Why we have to do in this age is because there's so much thrown at us, and people absorb and then keep them, and then they let that thought machine go from morning till evening. I also work with thought, I also do a lot of stuff, but I pay attention to each act and then I finish it off. That is the difference between me and my colleagues, because they are continuously thinking, thinking, thinking without giving a rest, without really taking hold of the mechanism of thought, emotions too. So once you have that kind of control or mastery, then you are very peaceful and you are very joyful too. So Life becomes a real joyful experience when you don't have these disparate thoughts coming or going and all that, right? So you have a prashanta, that means peace itself, that you'll taste that. Okay, so the whole purpose is this. First of all, don't say according to somebody else or compare yourself anyway. Just to look at yourself. How is your mind when you get up? Is it going all over, or do you have a settled down mind that can focus on the nature, on what is going on around you, and you are in touch with the present? Okay, your dog or your wife or your kids or your weather, your house, all those things, you are in the present there. And when you are doing something, do you allow the mind to go vagabond into some other thought from the past or something that you are planning for the future? So you could be regretting something that happened and thereby you become depressed, or you could be anxious about something that will to come up, like bills or whatever coming up, and you're anxious about it. So that won't solve the problem, but only give you grief. But if you can really figure out, okay, I need to do these things, let me go and finish the task, then you, after the task is done, you let go, then you have peace. Okay, so this is like a very fundamental, very practical thing to do. So if you have not realized how you made your thought your boss, then you had to reverse it. That's what Ramana Maharshi was telling to that guy. Um, Hi, Nazli. So it's a kind of really understanding how you were, how we allowed ourselves to be this. Suppose you are a scattered mind, you are agitated mind, you are no peace mind. All those things we kind of allowed them to develop due to the circumstances, due to the education, due to the culture, due to the chat gpt throwing stuff and all that, right? So you can reverse them, you can be in control of that and make sure that that's not going along. And also on top of it, people have these drugs they take, either prescription medications or alcohol or the illegal drugs, and or a habit, or allowing the mental diarrhea, we call it. That means all the time thinking, right? All those things we kind of impose on ourselves, because when they are happening, we are not aware of them. That's why they become our habits, and every time you repeat a habit, it becomes strength. That's how many people strengthen that this automatic. It looks like thoughts are popping up, thoughts are coming up, but that's really not the case. You are allowing them to come up by being unaware of them. So what you need to do, just be attention, just be aware. So when you sit down, when you close your eyes, when you see thoughts popping up, let them, don't suppress them, and don't catch that and follow the thought where it goes to something else. You become the watcher and watch the thought come up and go through you, and then let it disappear. Then it won't come back again. Otherwise it will come back again, and you give more strength to it if you resist it or if you indulge in it. This is how you want to allow the thought kind of surmise itself and go away from your inner subconsciousness and all that. For that, you need twice a day before you start the day, and at the end of the day, try to deliberately calm your mind. And that becomes a very good practice. Down the line, you will gain the knack of not being persuaded by whatever that comes into you or whoever throws at you. Somebody may say something and it may trigger something for us. All those things will be under your control if you have this daily practice, and then understanding how these things are building up in society, in myself, how I can really get rid of that. Okay, so that is what you need to do. Then you'll have um, peace and joy within yourself, right? That's why this abide as self is important to consider and really understand, because these people are masters of their thought. They are completely living in that thoughtless awareness, all the time. But when it becomes a question, you go and ask them, they will answer you with extremely intelligent thought. And some problems we may not be able to understand what's going on. And when you go and ask them existential questions about anything, they come up with the solutions that will clarify our confusion. And then suppose somebody has a cruel husband, and that husband had been taking out on her, and then she has no other place to go to. There were some times in India at that time, right? Girls cannot remarry, and then girls have to be staying with one man, even though he's very bad and all. So she was, every day she gets up, she is seeing all the hell in front of her the whole day with him. And so what can she do? Then the bondage, then the things that she thought, attachment, and all those things are really have to be clarified in her own mind, right? So he takes her thought along with him, not instructing, but kind of showing the wisdom of how to deal with our own confusions, lack of clarity, and all that. So they are very efficient users of thought. We are not. That's why we have so much problem with controlling the thought and really being in charge of that. Simple thing is, if you are in the morning, you are in the present, and then you go to work with a clear mind, beginner's mind, then you are going to contribute to the work by being very focused, very enjoyable work, and then you help other people. So you have a good day. At the end of the day, your thought has not become an issue, and it is not giving you problems. That's all. And also, if other insults come, other reactions come from other people, you are so aware that you don't react with your mind. Those are advantages. Okay, so having that inner resilience of controlling our thought patterns and reactions to those is very important. As I really work with people about the burnout or stress or whatever, I usually tell them it's not the other person that's the problem, it's how you are reacting. Remember, Buddha said, first arrow, it will come from the society, but how you react will become the second arrow. Okay. So once you understand that we are kind of like a teenager, I saw this so many times in my clinic. They 2 or 3 days will come just to get a school physical or just to get something simple thing that is going on with them. They sit in the waiting room, and many times we see that they will be complaining about each other's boyfriend, and they think that is really. Hi, Nazli. So they will be talking about something. They think that they are kind of venting it, but then actually they are deliberately uh, strengthening their bad negative feeling. It becomes much more negative. So when I drop on that and say, yeah, you don't have to share everything to everybody, only the people that will help you, like your mom or teacher or somebody like that, and they stop talking about anything that happened in their relationship, and then they don't allow it to uh, grow up more. The small problem becomes much more when you kind of went like that. Okay, that's good. Hi, Nazli, how are you?
Hello, Dr. Rao.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I have a question, and the question is when someone is not nice to us,
Yeah.
so we hear something that is not nice,
Yeah.
and we feel hurt. So if we be stronger,
Yeah.
uh, it should be like we don't even get hurt. How could we even not get hurt in the first place?
Yeah, that's a question. Okay, who is that getting hurt is the one that you should be aware of. Uh, if you have this thought bred ego or personality, that is the one which is getting hurt. But as we are saying, that's not really you, that's a shadow of you. Your real self is that observer, is that watcher, is that witness of these reactions that are happening within our ego or our personality. Because we realize Ego is our shadow, it's not really us. You just watch it if it is reacting with hurt and all that. Once you have that, the ego transcend. You understood what it is, you have transcended that. It doesn't matter whether it is getting hurt or not. That's how you transcend that hurt. And slowly you will see that is not there that much. That becomes the slave and the ego will be gone off. Then you are abiding in this real self of yours, which is the watcher or the witness. And that's why you don't have the feeling of hurt, because you will not experience that. So this is not that easy, but then a lot of people, they carry the hurt and they repeat the hurt emotionally, and then they make it much stronger. So if you can forgive whoever is saying at that moment, and also let go the feeling and all that, don't allow it to become much larger or stronger, then you have got a control over that. And that is the resilience I'm talking about. It doesn't happen just like that, but you need to sit down and understand yourself. Who is this that is getting hurt? Is the my real reality, or this the I thought I was this role, or I thought I was this particular degree, or whatever that we associate with. Then we become a constructor of our own ego. And once you see that, okay, this is all made by me, it's not really there, then you let it go. So when I first heard this, that J. Krishnamurti, I think he said, I don't know what is the feeling of hurt. Nothing hurts me because I don't ever allow that ego grow. So I'm always in that reality of mine, which is behind the body and thought. And once I am there, I can see clearly this hurt mechanism, and then I don't allow the thought to mushroom like that. Then there's no point of getting hurt. So just at the time of getting hurt, take a seat back and say, who is it that is getting hurt? Ask that question. Then immediately you will see, okay, it's not really the thing, but is how I'm reacting from my own ego, that I am so and so, so you shouldn't be saying that to me. I am so and so. All this is kind of network of thought. Once you know that's all just a thought that is being built by me, you don't have to blame yourself. You just see the mechanism. But that takes some time too. Initially, you may not be able to do that at all. But understand what I'm saying. Divide into a person said something, that is the first arrow that has come to me. And then I react to it, that is the second arrow. And how do I manage that second arrow? First of all, you may not you want to generate the second arrow. Second thing is, you don't want to push it further and further by repeating it. And also, you just see the whole mechanism and let it resolve by itself. It's not going to be that easy, I'm telling you. But as you understand, as you ruminate on this, as you reflect on this, and then examine it and doubt it and come to the understanding by yourself, that understanding comes to your rescue next time you are getting hurt. Make sense, Nazli?
Theoretically, I know about like the screen, the difference between the screen and the movie character.
Yeah.
But practice, when someone says something to me, although I have been in
Yeah.
like meditations,
Yeah. That's
daily
because,
for many years, I still get hurt.
yeah, that's it. You did get hurt because you never allowed this whole process of hurt mechanism completely take it out and throw it away. That is not happening, then the mechanism is persisting, you get hurt. So even if you get hurt, that is an occasion for you to see how you are. If you can see that, if you don't justify, don't say something or nothing like that, just allow that to come, and then be away from it, not in it. If you are in that, then you feel hurt going on. But if you are away from it as you observer, as a witness, which is what is the screen is, then the screen won't react to it at all. You are not being the screen, you are still being the event in the movie. And once you identify the event, you cannot come out of it. But the moment you are not the movie, but you are the screen is not going to react because it doesn't
But
touch it, right? It plays
yes,
on
but
it. Yeah,
the problem is then how could we not selectively be the screen? Because
yeah,
we create some goals, and how a screen make goals.
yeah. But you know that goals making is also your thought. There is a thought making something practical is different. Thought making it as your experience and all that, that is different. That is the one we are talking about.
I see.
Be the observer, that is the screen. Be the watcher, that is the screen. It the
But
movie
what happens when we celebrate
yeah,
like a marriage
that
or we want to be happy?
yeah, that is also you can celebrate it because you are involved in it. But you that's where it happens both ways. If you grasp something, unless you let go, that binds you. So it's not like you got to sacrifice all the celebrities, but that also you can watch, and then that watching becomes the real screen, and then you can celebrate if you want to, but don't go like I'm not going to be losing this occasion, and the celebration is going to be there all the time in life. See, what is the problem I would say is we grasp the celebration, but the opposite of it happens, right, in life. Like then you don't want that. That doesn't happen. Both of them you got to be watch. See, in the on the screen, movie playing, there will be good, laughing, happy occasions, and there will be sad occasions, right? But then the screen is not touched by either of them. But what we want is we want to touch and celebrate whatever is good, and then don't want the opposite effect. That doesn't happen because the reaction is going to happen both of them. How you take it, you see, that's the thing. You say, for example, I'm there. If something nice happens, oh yeah, nice happened, that's all. But then I shouldn't be expecting that should be repeating. So if I see a tree like Nazli, the tree is beautiful. And then at the time when I'm with the tree, I'm aware of the tree, I'm enjoying the scenery. But right after that is done, I leave it and go. That is where the thought comes. That it wants to store it as a memory. It wants to preserve it. It wants to. That is where the problem with the celebration also. You see?
I feel like there is a bias towards being sad in like the
Yeah,
way I see it.
yeah, that
Like
definitely.
it's
Yeah.
easier not to enjoy anything if you be the screen.
No, you can enjoy things, but let them go. See, after that is experience is done, let that go. Don't hang on to it like that. If you are having some pain, just look at it and then let it pass. That is where the being the watcher helps. As they come, you allow it to travel through you without you grasping at it. It's like
Thank you so much.
yeah,
Yes.
it's understanding life will have both. So let me not react too much for it, and also hold that whether it is celebration or whether it is something regretting. Don't hold, it's already gone. This is why being in the moment, being in the present is very important. So if you are thinking about something, you are not in the present with whatever you are doing. So if you are feeling the bad, also the same thing. So that's why always trying to be in the present. Actually, that is life. I will take the same tree example. I went and saw the tree, and then I enjoyed the tree appearance, the tree sway, the wind, and all that. I mean, the movement completely allowing it to seep through me. I enjoyed it. Then I'm walking away to something else where I have to do. I cannot be lost in the memory of the tree. I have to pay attention to what is in front of me. And that is being in the present helps. See, we cling to some things that are already done or may be coming in the imagination. The problem is not letting that go, whatever we have done. I do that very quickly because, like I told my patients, if I see a patient, This patient needs my attention now, right? So complete attention to him, and then what is his problem, how I can do, what I plan, all those things are done with a mind that is completely here and now. Then he is gone. The next patient comes. I do the same thing to him, but don't bring the previous patient into my mind. So that is kind of you practice with each incident in your life. Then you begin to see being in the present is being in the real life. Otherwise, you are in your head thinking of something that happened or thinking of something that's going to come. But if you are in life here and now, you are not in your head.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that is a very good question. Actually, very practical. It happens to all the time. And that's why I always say bring your awareness, which is within the present, to the front and use your thought consciously. That means you pick up certain situation, you use the thought, and after this is done, you end the thought. That's a very difficult for a lot of people because they don't allow it to stop or go away from that. That travels into your subconscious, stays there. And the more you are like that, the more the past becomes your lively thing and the future becomes your live thing, but you are missing out on the present, which is really the life. So it's an important question, Nazri. I'm glad that you asked me that. So this is like a lifestyle for me. I teach being in the present. I teach people to be aware. I teach people to be consciously thinking and finishing it off. Okay. So once you start in the morning being aware, and then don't get yourself in that network of thought I talked about, and then you do all the things in the present and cultivate that presence as a habit, as a perfume, and carry that throughout your activities in the day. That means every time you go anything, you pay complete attention and be in the present. That means you are abiding in your real self. And then going to the next one, do the same thing. Like that, you got to do everything. Yeah, even one question that makes very significance about conveying what I practice, what talking about, what I want people to understand, what I'm talking about, and then you go and think about it, you and apply it, and you see what happens in your life. If there's something different, then you can come and ask. You see, we are so intricately caught up with our mind, and that's why only one standard: am I in my head or am I in my life? If you are in the present, you are not bothered about the past and the future, then you are actually in the life, which is the present. Present is our real life. Otherwise, if you are in the past or in the future, you are in your head, your own conclusions, your own whatever you think you will come through, right? So just get up in the morning, Lazarus. All you do is so look at everything for what they are, whatever around you, and be present. Bring yourself to the present. Then go and do whatever you do with complete attention in presence. And suppose you close your eyes and a lot of thoughts are coming, then observe the thoughts, be the witness of the thought, but don't indulge or don't suppress them. That's how you get that thought burden from your mind go down. Now you say, oh, my intellect is everything, I am only thinking and all that, then you are going to be putting yourself in the thought network and you are never going to say, how come I don't meditate? Because I'm always in that present awareness, moment to moment. So, and then finishing off the things as they are happening and really accept them as they appear in the present and then go. And also at the end of the night, I also told a review of reactions. That's another thing you could practice. You could just briefly see what's going on in your mind and say all those things that you have done through the day comes your happiness or your celebrations or your all those things come, finish them, bring them to your front and then finish them completely, and take leave from them completely. If you have something you have to remember and do something important, write it down. But then for the night, finish them. Then you go to sleep very, very well because you are sleeping on less burden. Nothing need to clear by the mind, so you don't have much dreams. You sleep, and then you get up in the morning again, start being in the present. So this, if you do continuously, what we are doing is the wrong thing. What we are doing is just identifying with those thoughts, making the thoughts go into our subconscious, take their own home, establish themselves, and always living in the past or in the future. Occasionally, when there is a real danger, a real important deadline or something, that's when we are in the present. Otherwise, mostly we are in the head, either in the past or in the future. You can check yourself. You will see whether you are there or not, or are you always living in the present. Very tough thing, I know, but then the only thing that you have to do is, am I in this moment or not? If you can check that, that becomes a habit, and that becomes a very good thing to go through. Then you are living each moment fully. You know. So anybody else has any questions? Or there are some people on this. Uh, 23 people are there. So anybody want to come up? That will be good. Okay. Nazli asked a beautiful question, so I was able to explain to them. So abide as the self is something of a movie I would recommend that you see it. Then you may have more questions or probably uh, more doubts about things. This is not going to be getting just like that. People have spent with this meditations for years, and some people may not even care for it. But what is happening in modern life is, as we are in the information age, as we are getting more and more data coming at us, we are subjecting our minds to go through these network of thoughts, and then first there will be thoughts, and thoughts unconsciously thinking going to the subconscious, settle down there. There are some samskaras, and those prop up and get up when you are not really aware of these things, and then they take over you, and then you repeat that, and that becomes the problem. The same thing with the hurt also. Somebody said something, you were hurt, and then you allowed it to go and stay in your subconscious. It will come up again. You are living the past living experience of getting hurt, feeling the emotional pain. That is what I'm telling you. Be careful. Don't go and live the past. You can recollect somebody said something, but if your reaction is not there, it doesn't matter. But if you react like living the whole emotional hurt again, that is the problem. You don't need to do that. Okay. All right. I think I will stop here, and then I will see you back again tomorrow. Thanks, Nazli. I'll see you tomorrow.